The Conjuring House drama gets worse and worse by the day, and today we're going to check out a brand new video from John Huntington, who lived in the Conjuring House over the course of COVID lockdowns, to see if it is simply strange. So he has just recently uploaded a part 2 of his experiences within the Conjuring House, almost explaining where Jacqueline Nunez could possibly be coming from. Now, over on his YouTube channel, John Huntington, or Huntington Paranormal, he has uploaded part 2 of Living at the Conjuring House, what may be happening to the new owner and my experiences. We're going to take a look at it today, like I said, to see if it is simply strange. I'm not taking any old excuses for Jacqueline Nunez's behaviour, to pardon her behaviour, but I feel like it's fair to, only fair to present an unbiased opinion on the situation. So let's get into it.
Hey everyone, I just want to thank everyone for their amazing comments on my last video about the new owner and the Conjuring House where I lived at for approximately a year with the Heinzens, and I was alone off and on. I just want to thank you all. I almost took the video down several times. I was afraid of comments and the whole situation, but it had...
First of all, I'm glad that he didn't take the video down, because I do think it's important to share what his experiences were within the Conjuring House. Of course, there was one thing that I said from the very beginning of all of this, which was, how come we never hear about the paranormal side of the house anymore? The most recent things that I've ever heard about the Conjuring House is just it's overpriced and it's being ran incredibly poorly. And I've been hearing that for a very long time, not just because of this controversy. So, I'm glad that John shared his experiences and, kept the video live.
Weighed on my mind for some time now, and I just had to get it out. If you haven't seen the original video, please watch it before this one so you know what's going on. For people who are just joining or just watching this video, the last video is kind of about what I went through at the Conjuring House and similar things that the new owner is going through at the moment. I believe that last video made a huge difference for the good. I believe a lot of good has come from that last video. Friendships have been rekindled.
Yes, I'm glad about that, because of course he was incredibly upset at one point, in the video about his friendships kind of breaking down off the back of living in the house. So I'm glad that these friendships have since rekindled. And
forgiveness and nothing but positive has came from this video. I wasn't sure how the responses would be, but I am blown away by everyone's kindness. I just want to say thank you all for your amazing messages and kindness. Once again, if you're new here, my name is John Huntington. I lived at the Conjuring House for about a year, sometimes alone for about a month at a time during the pandemic. I've been doing the paranormal a long time. But anyways, enough about me. This video is some reasons that the new owner may be stressed out and experiencing what she is experiencing. It is it's a very stressful place to live. It's not all bad, don't get me wrong. A lot of wonderful things came out of the house, friendships and things like that. But some of these things can stress you out and lead to just you getting stressed and acting weird, not only with paranormal, but just all these things that I went through, this Corey's gone through, and others as well.
Now, I'm intrigued to see what he's got to say, because obviously I'm not going to sit here and just, disregard everyone's feelings towards Jacqueline Nunez because, she's possessed or, she's got a lot on her plate. That's part of business. That's just what being a business owner is. It doesn't excuse your behaviour towards your staff, and it doesn't excuse, firing someone because John Arnold, who died in the 1800s, told you to. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen yesterday's video, made the news. It literally made the news. And he's going real public with it. Brian is, the vice president of the Conjuring House, or the ex-vice president. And he's seeking legal reprimands. So get in there, Brian. There's a lot of good coming out of the back of this situation.
Here are some reasons why I think the new owner may be acting the way she is.
Right, here we go.
It may be mental, but what I've heard is she's changed in similar ways that I changed staying too long at the Conjuring House. I know it took me quite a while to get back to my old self. When I moved to the Conjuring House, I don't know exactly how long, but basically I hated everybody. I blocked everybody. All the people from the Sleepless Unrest movie, I blocked all of them. Just was upset and wasn't myself. But anyways, I knew the new owner has said things and done things to people that aren't right. I don't know the whole story. I don't know behind the story. I don't know exactly what happened, but I know there's a lot of stuff out there saying she's done a lot of bad things. I don't agree with some of the things she's said and done, but can you imagine? I can't imagine having all these big name paranormal people just talking about you the way they are. I know maybe she deserves it, but I don't know how I would handle that. That would be enough to make me go crazy.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I would hate to have that level of scrutiny on myself, but at the same time, it's one of those things where if you're going to behave in a particular way that's not exactly fair and it's not nice and is not, down to the point where you're not even doing your job, because there are people that have apparently turned up to the Conjuring house. It's not even apparent, it's literal fact. And they haven't been able to get let in. They paid through the teeth to get into this place, right? $1,500 just to get in, right? For a night's experience there for a group of 6 or whatever. They turn up, they're there for a great night. The Conjuring house, touted as the greatest paranormal experience of your life. Can't get in. The owner hasn't turned up to let you in. She was happy to take the money, but she wasn't happy to let them in. It's not exactly fair, is it?
Now, a lot of good things came from the house, obviously, like I said before. So in my next video I will talk about some of the really good things that came out of the house.
And I do look forward to hearing about that because obviously, I would love to see the reverse of this. I'd love to see, where obviously this whole thing's been very negative, but I would like to kind of look into the positive side of the situation.
And experiences at the house. Friendships and things like that. Nothing all bad. It's not all bad at the house. So here's some reasons that I feel that will make you go nuts at the Conjuring house, besides the whatever you're hearing in your head and paranormal stuff, which enough to drive anybody crazy. But so I have videos out there in TikTok and Facebook Reels and all that stuff. I think I might have them on YouTube. I don't know. But there's times when trespassers would come at all hours of the night, and I know it's a lot to take on sometimes. You never know what you're going to run into. You don't know how these people are going to react. Sometimes they're violent, sometimes they just want to take a picture or something like that, which isn't bad, but when you're dealing with it day to day, it can really get to you. I actually have a video on TikTok where I'm by myself, it's the middle of the night. I was about to do a live stream, so I used to do some live streams from there, and all of a sudden this van pulls up, and 10 people get out of it, and it's all kids, I think, teenagers. All have lights on their head, and I'm like, oh my god, what is gonna happen? This happened live, I caught it live. And luckily I went outside with a flashlight and they just took off, but that's 10 people, what? I mean, you could call the cops or whatever, but 10 people show up, what are you gonna do? You might have it on film, but...
Yeah, fair point made there, very fair point. I can imagine trying to constantly keep guard of your property, which is a very notable place, can be difficult, especially... historical places typically have top-notch security, but this kind of place is just a house. It's owned by someone, not owned by, the government or whatever. So you haven't got that kind of federal occupation there to look after the place. It's solely down to you, and everybody knows about it. Everybody's watched The Conjuring. It was a fantastic movie. So I can imagine how that can start to get quite tricky, actually.
It'd be kind of stressful just sitting there waiting for stuff to happen, watching the monitors, and we had motion things that would go off too and would alert you of somebody being there, and you'd be sleeping, and all of a sudden you're just oh my god, the noise would go off and you have to look at the cameras, and then you'll see somebody pull in, or most of the time you just flash the light at them, they leave. But sometimes they wouldn't. You'd have to go out and yell at them, or tell them to come back when it's not 2 in the morning. But it also can be very entertaining watching the crazy stuff that people do. I know myself and Jen Hines and Corey, sometimes we sit there and just watch and be like shaking our heads like, what are these people thinking, you know? But there was always somebody at the house. I was there alone a lot, but there was always somebody there. It was hardly ever no one at the house to watch it. I kind of tend to attract paranormal stuff for some odd reason. I hope it never stops because I do enjoy it. And I do have tons of videos out there, spare box stuff, EVPs, just crazy stuff I've captured over the years. If you want to check those out. But at night, I would try to sleep in the house. Things would kind of happen like right when I was about to fall asleep. Mostly noises and stuff like that. Yeah, like voices and noises would happen. I would sleep in the, for most of the time I was there, I slept on the couch next to the door. Because I felt like that, it was a comfy couch to be honest, but I did feel safe being right by the door. And later on I slept, there was like a loft area that you pulled down and I would sleep up in there. And then Corey and Jen started sleeping up there as well and kind of turned into a room. So definitely lack of sleep will mess with your head when you're just jumping at every sound you hear and you're up all night. A lot of times myself and Bill Barack or Corey would sleep a lot during the day because at night it would be active and people would show up and the only safe time usually would be in the morning.
Yep, okay, well that's fair. You know, like lack of sleep does absolutely deprive someone of sanity. That's why it is literally a torture method. So, you know, I can understand that. At the same time, though, if Jacqueline Nunez has got all of this money that she claims to have, you know, from owning 2 companies, then, you know, maybe practices can be put into place, hiring a security team, even if it's just, you know, someone who sits outside. Like, you can literally hire people to sit outside in a van with a canine and, you know, they would just sit there for the night. You could just hire a company to do that for you. I mean, it's probably very expensive. I don't know because I've never had to do it. But at the same time, if it's your business, you'd do anything to look after it. You know, I guess it's one of those things that you just have to bite the bullet.
Or if somebody's investigating all night, they'll come in and ask you questions like the whole night, you know, show their evidence or want you to investigate with them. And the next day you got to get up and you got to clean the house, you know, before the next people come in. But especially during the pandemic, you had to sanitize everything.
Again, though, like if Jacqueline Nunez didn't mistreat her staff, like to be fair, from what I've heard from encounters with, you know, ex people that worked there, Jacqueline Nunez was hardly ever there. Like she literally just left the day-to-day running to the you know, the vice president, whether that be Brian or whoever it was at the time. And then, you know, she'd just leave it to the staff. And sometimes she'd dip in and out or whatever, but she's very rarely there. So, you know, surely the lack of sleep of being at the house and the events wouldn't affect her too much because it wasn't her that was dealing with all that stuff. It was Cody and Satori. It was Cody and Corey and Jen, or, you know, whoever else was at the house at the time. So, you know, does that necessarily mean that she gets let off the hook for that reason? Not necessarily.
Top to bottom, sanitize everything, clean the beds, you know, and I would usually get done just before the next person would come in. So, but anyways, it was it's pretty stressful. In other words, and it's a beautiful place, so that helps. Like you could go outside and it's just, you know, beautiful scenery. It's close to everything. But I'm just trying to list things that could be stressful and could affect you if you stay there too long. And this doesn't include the business part of it, like whatever, you know, I didn't deal with any of that. I mean, I had collected like people's money and stuff like that, and dealt with people, but I didn't have to figure out the money or anything like that. So I won't get into pay or anything like that because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, because I stayed there. I basically stayed there as friend with Corey and Jen, so I didn't really expect to get paid. So, and like dating, if you're living at the Conjuring house, it's not easy. Like, sure, maybe easier to meet people, but you're sitting there in the back of your mind, are these people using you, or are they really my friend, or are they just trying to get in the Conjuring house? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. It was really hard. And then of course people think you're absolutely crazy. So that would stress you out. You'd be like, you know, nobody's ever gonna want to date me because they think I'm nuts because I'm living at the Conjuring house. I'm sure stuff like that can mess with her mind or anybody's mind, because you're just sitting there wondering, like, are these people really your friend, or are they trying to get in the house, or stuff like that. That will mess with your head. So the owner could be going through similar things.
So far, right, I love the video and I love what John is trying to do here, and I love that he's, you know, expressing from his experiences of living in the house. You know, he lived it, he's experienced it, you know, that's fantastic. But, and this isn't John's fault, but what I feel is that this could just be a list of excuses that Jacqueline Nunes can one day turn around and just say, I was lonely, I couldn't trust my friends because I thought they were using me. You know, I was up all night because of guests, and I was up all night because of people trying to break in. Like, you know, it gives her ammunition to kind of get off the hook with her behaviours. And that's what bugs me a little bit, is someone like Jacqueline Nunes, you know, the way that she's treated people is inexcusable. She can't be let off the hook, so to speak, you know? You know, I'm going to continue watching because I'm fascinated by John's experiences, but I do fear that this could just be ammunition for Jacqueline Nunes to some degree.
I know paranormal wise, like I said in my last video, there's things that would tell me to hurt myself, and you know, that nobody's gonna even remember you unless you hurt you off yourself. Things like that. I mean, it does happen. It's very strange. You know, I'd have nightmares, and yeah, I wouldn't tell anybody because they think I was crazy. So I think I mentioned it to one of the guys on Sleepless Unrest about it. He wanted to make a video about it, but I didn't. I just didn't want anybody to know at the time. I was lucky to have the Heinzens tell me when I was changing and how I was changing and how I needed a timeout from the house. They could tell. I couldn't really tell. I was kind of upset that I had to leave. Like I said, I kind of grew attached to the house, or attached to me, and I didn't want to leave the house. But I did, and it was probably a good thing. So I don't know what could have happened. I don't know what could have happened to me in the end if I would have stayed any longer. I don't know what could happen to the owner if she stays any longer. She sounds like she's going through a lot of similar things. You know, I actually wish I could go to the house and talk to her about it, but I try to message her. I'm sure she has a million messages and she's never gotten back. I know before she bought the house, I actually tried to friend request her, but she didn't accept it. And for some reason, I got blocked from the Conjuring House page.
Oh my God.
Right off the bat. So I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know what I did or anything, but.
Wow, that's interesting. Very interesting and very telling about the situation, really. If you think about it, you know, like this, for all people try and excuse Jacqueline Nunes's behavior as, you know, an oppressive entity doing this to her, you know, this behavior was there from the get-go. And it's not just John that's experienced this. Many people have said that this is just how she's always been. She's been like this since day dot. You know, this is a business. This is how I run my business. And then, you know, like the business is done. I don't know. I can't say how well or poorly it's done, or if it's just done the same. But, you know, apparently she's just not always been that kind of personable person. She's not like, you know, hands-on. She's not like very, you know, like apparently there were times where Brian would say things and she'd just stonewall him. Cody and Satori have come out and said that they would ask her questions. They'd just be stonewalled, met with a blank face, and then she'd just walk off. And then they're just there like, was it something I said? Like, you know, she doesn't come across as a very open, like it doesn't come across as an open door policy to me. It's like, as you know, if I was a manager, that's my policy. That would be my policy, an open door. Like anyone could come and talk to me about anything, and we try and resolve an issue. Especially if my business was being, you know, if it was to do with my business, for example.
So those are some things. I'm sure there's more that I could list that could drive you crazy, spending too much time. You're kind of secluded, but you do meet a lot of groups, which also can be pretty stressful. And I remember, doing tours and stuff like that can be stressful because, if you don't get the history right, they're gonna let you know, and they're gonna tell everybody you fucked up on the history. So that's one thing I did not like doing the tours, because I was really bad at remembering the history. Like, I should have just printed something out and walked around with it, because I was really bad at that. But that can stress you out, getting the history wrong, and then somebody, posts all over social media, you did it wrong or whatever. There's always these worries in the back of your head. And then I can't imagine dealing with several employees of the house, because when I was there, they had no employees at the house at all. They just had like me or Bill to watch over the house.
It sounds like a full circle moment to me.
When they weren't there. And when they were there, they would do all the tours and everything themselves. So I can't imagine taking on all that responsibility. How many employees does she have? Like 10 at one point? Like, I don't know.
Not anymore.
Trying to juggle all that would make you go nuts. Or, maybe it's not all the stuff I'm talking about. Maybe she's just doing it for attention. I don't know. But what I experienced there changed me. Towards the end, I became a different person, and I'm glad, very glad that they let me go when they did. I would definitely go back, and I would just, be careful. I wouldn't stay there for months at a time alone again, for sure. A lot of stuff would happen there that I didn't even put out. I didn't have on video. But I was recording quite a bit. We had DVRs, and I would do investigations myself when I was bored, because I love ghost hunting. But yeah, I captured some crazy stuff there. Probably the most evidence anybody's ever captured at the house.
Is this evidence live? Because I would absolutely love to check out this evidence from the house. Obviously, I've got a keen interest in the Conjuring house, and as someone who loves the Conjuring franchise, the movie franchise, thinking about where it all started with the Perrin family, Ed and Lorraine Warren going into this house, that's where it all began. If it wasn't for that movie franchise, where would this house be? Probably not to the kind of scale that it is now. I'm going to stop the video there. Obviously, if you want to go and support John, I highly recommend that you do. There will be a link down in the description to John's channel, so you can go and check him out for yourself. You can keep up to date with some of the things that he talks about. But, like I say, I've got a very keen interest in the Conjuring house, and it's a real shame to see just the chaos that it's fallen under. Because over on my channel, I've obviously put up some polls recently talking about, is Jacqueline Nunes destroying the credibility / legacy of the Conjuring house? And from 730 votes, 88% of people have said yes. I then asked, is the Conjuring house true? Is the owner of the Conjuring house truly ... possessed? 1,000 votes, 92% of people said no. And then I've had some other ones as well talking about just different things. But it's really interesting to see people's outlook on this whole thing. All I see in my comment section is hashtag boycott the Conjuring house. That's all I see now. And I think unless the ownership changes hands, I think it's just going to continue that way. Or unless Jacqueline Nunes comes out and is like, look, I hold my hands up. What I did wasn't right, but here's my step-by-step program of or plan on how I'm going to make things better. What do you guys think, though? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. While you're down there, be sure to jump together the hell out of that like button if you have not already. Subscribe if you're new. Tick on my little bell to get notified whenever we upload. Until next time, guys, I'll speak to you later. Peace.